All right, shalom, shalom. It's another GMS lesson. Come back at you. Before I do get into this lesson, I'm going to start off by giving all honor, glory, and praises to the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rachah HaKodash. Next up, double honors to my apostles and elders, great millstone, taught me the 100% truth of the Bible, and who will well. Peace, love, salutations to all the brothers across the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth in all diligence and sincerity, you know. As you can see, the time on the screen, Israel is scattered. We're going to go into that a little bit and, prove through scriptures that, this isn't a, this isn't a color thing or black and a black thing. We're not the black Hebrew Israelites. We are the Hebrew Israelites, right? And we're going to come in these days in different shades, and we're going to look like every nation on the face of the earth, not because this thing was given to everybody in the world, but because there are Israelites who are amongst these other nations, right? Look like these other nations, but seed line goes back to the seed line of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So we're just going to jump right into it. This is Deuteronomy Chapter 28, verse 64. And it reads, "And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth even unto the other." Right. So that's it, right? We could end the lesson right there. Because this is simple and plain. The reason the reason why we say that these other nations won't get saved, but at the same time you'll catch a camp, one of our camps, and then you'll see a so-called white man standing up there with us. It's really simple, man. Because if anybody believes on this truth, they are an Israelite, man. If they sincerely believe in this truth, they sincerely fear Yahweh Shem Yahushai and walk after his ways, they are an Israelite. These heathens can't get the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that we have when it comes to Yahweh Shem Yahushai. It's just that plain and simple, right? But it reads on, "And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone." That's why you see us. We're all in all these. That's why we're all into all these other things, man. Like worshiping wood and stone. You got our people into Christianity, Catholicism, right? Worshiping the cross. You got people into Islam, right? What's that? That cobblestone. Worshiping a rock from space, right? When they have the true living power in Yahweh, who the word ignorantly calls God, whose name means he exists, in the Lashon Kodash, the holy tongue, the Hebrew tongue, right? But the point being, we are scattered amongst all the people on the face of the earth, right? Here we go down. And that was our punishment for going off, right? This is Tobit 13, verse 2. It reads, "For he doeth scourge, he being the Heavenly Father, and have mercy. He leadeth down to hell and bringeth up again." Right, and meaning what? Like a hellacious state, right? Lower state, right? Because that's what he did. That's what he did to us. He brung us low, right? And that word scourge goes into punishment. It was our punishment. Right, that whole Deuteronomy 28 chapter, verses 15 on down, are the curses that will befall our people for forsaking the Lord, man. And verse 64 is a punishment. Is a part of the scourge that the Lord put upon us for us going off. Right. So and he did that to us as a again as a punishment for going off. But it reads on, "Neither is there any that can avoid his hand." Right, so you can't get out of the hands of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. If he wants to punish you, it's gonna happen. Right? If he got you in his crosshairs, nobody can stop the will of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, man. It reads Tobit 13:3, "Confess him before the Gentiles, ye children of Israel, for he have scattered us among them." Right, and that's the point as well. confessing before the Gentiles, not because we're trying to bring in the natural Gentiles, right? Not because we're trying to make this thing about everybody coming in and following after the Lord, right? No, confess him before the Gentiles, ye children of Israel, right? And again, you confess them. That's what we do when we go into the highways and byways, right? And it says, ye children of Israel. That's how we know that the only people that can preach this and understand this and bring out this message are Israelites. So bringing back up that point again, you see a camp full of so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Americans, and then right in the smack dab in the middle is a so-called white man. It's because he's not really a so-called white man. He is a Hebrew Israelite, right? He is one of those Israelite foreigners who was scattered abroad, right? Who heard the word and took heed to it, right? Or not just a so-called white man, so-called Chinese man, so-called African man, so-called East Indian, so-called Arab. It can be anybody, because we were scattered throughout the four corners of the earth amongst all the people on the face of the earth, man. So we can come in any shades, any complexion, and and what looks to be any ethnicity, but we are our seed line goes back to the seed line of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, man. No matter what, if they have come and they sincerely adhere to the word. This is James 1:1. James, a servant of Yahweh and of the Lord Yahweh Shai Mashiach, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. Greeting, right? This is the opening. This is the opening to the book of James, his epistle, right? And what it says, it is to the 12 tribes of Israel. To the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. We are scattered abroad, man. Right? This word, like it reads in Acts 13, the word of this salvation is for those of the stock of Abraham, man, and those of him who fear the Most High, right? Basically, the elect of the nation of Israel, man. Right? It's Jeremiah 29, verse 14, and it reads, and I will be found of you, saith the Lord, and I will turn away your captivity, and I will gather you from all the nations and from all the places whither I have driven you, saith the Lord, and I will bring you again into the place whence I caused you to be carried away captive, right? So the Lord is going to bring us out of all nations, man, because what? He scattered us among them, man, right? He reads on, Matthew, next precept, Matthew 10, verse 5, and it reads, these 12 Yahweh Shai sent forth and commanded them, saying, go. And commanded them, saying, go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not. These are talking about the natural Gentiles, the natural heathens, right? It says, go not in the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, right? And say what? Reads on, verse 7. And as ye go, preach, saying the kingdom of heaven is at hand. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. This is the message, but only give it to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. The Lord sent out his 12 disciples, right? Later turned apostles to do what? To preach to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. How are they lost? Because our people were scattered. You had Israelites who were, some of our Israelites who at this time knew that they were Israelites, but they were still living in the ways of the heathen, right? Because and then you had other Israelites who had been scattered away for so long, right? Were probably born into into other heathen customs and didn't know that they were Israelites, man, right? So this is what the deal is. You got Israelites who were in these heathen places, right? But what? They were Israelites, and they needed to hear this word that to turn back to the only living power and to be Lord willing, delivered and saved, right? And that the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And that's the same message today, right? That's why we go out to the chief place of concourse. That's why we go out to the main places where people are buying and selling. Because we don't just go to the hood and try to find every so-called Negro, Latino, or Native American, because we know that Israel is scattered abroad. Israel could be walking in Israelite could be walking in the skin of a so-called Edomite, a so-called not so-called Edomite, a so-called white man, or a so-called Asian, or a so-called African, or a so-called East Indian, Arab. It doesn't matter. They can look like anything, right? So, Lord willing, that was edifying with that. I'm going to go ahead and close it out. Peace and love to the elect. Shalom.